It is the 26th of November, and this day in Baptist history, our reading is the Mary Slessor of the Congo. Our verse of Scripture comes from Romans chapter 16 and verse 1. I commend unto you Phoebe, our sister, which is a servant of the church, which is at Cenchrea. Lydia Mary de Hales, Hailes, was the first single lady missionary to be appointed by the Baptist Mission Society of Great Britain. She was born into a fine Christian family of 4 children in North London, and her father penned her full name into the family Bible. Spiritual significance was of great importance to her parents, and thus she was named Lydia, of whom we read, whose heart the Lord opened, and Mary, of whom it was said that she also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. Lydia was privileged to be reared in a well-disciplined home where strict upbringing was intended to shield the children from worldly pleasures. In her youth, she was introduced to the cause of missions, and on one occasion she was deeply impressed in hearing Dr. Robert Moffat, that great old pioneer missionary to Africa. She early sensed the call of God upon her life for missionary service. Upon her completion of school, Lily, as she became known, came down with a severe case of smallpox, and for weeks was critically ill. The disease left her permanently scarred, but she would not be deterred from service as a missionary. Her conviction of God's call was intensified by her reading of the lives of missionaries and her personal friendship with Mr. H. Grattan Guinness, chairman of the Livingston Inland Mission. Thus it was that upon the return of her health, Lily entered into a study of medicine to enhance her life and service to Christ. Training took her to the St. Bartholomew Hospital. The family had united with a newly formed congregation in the Baptist Chapel in Highgate, where Reverend James Stevens was the minister. This church was a hotbed of missions, for during his pastorate there, Reverend Stevens witnessed 51 of his members who volunteered for mission service. To further prepare, Lily next moved to Scotland, where in 1881 and 1882 she trained at the Simpson Memorial Hospital in Edinburgh. There she met a missionary appointee, Reverend Alexander Coe, who had been appointed to service in the Congo. In 1885, the couple were engaged with the understanding that Lily would follow Reverend Coe to the mission field in about a year. Tragedy struck, however, as Reverend Coe fell sick and died after just 5 weeks in the Congo. The Baptist Mission Society was averse to appointing single women for work in Africa, and thus the hopes of the young lady were doubly dashed. A disappointed and discouraged Lily returned home, but God was not through. In 1889, Mr. Guinness, who was now secretary of the new Congo Balolo, B-A-L-O-L-O, mission, gathered a group of 5 volunteers who were ready to go to the field. The group included one married couple, and it was thought good to find another lady who would serve as a companion for the lone lady. Mr. Guinness decided it would be best to send along a nurse selected, Miss de Hales, and thus began her 40-year-long service for Christ in Africa. After 6 years of labor in the Upper Congo region, Miss de Hales accepted an appointment with the Baptist Mission Society and labored for an additional 34 years in the land of her choice. Her first work among the Baptists was with Reverend and Mr. George Grenfell. Her service gained her the title of the Mary Slessor of the Congo. Her record of service midst multiple trials is amazing. Her spiritual labors among the girls and women was remarkable, and her tireless medical practice was staggering. In 1901, she treated 19,000 outpatients with various diseases, and the number of patients swelled to 25,200 in 1902. In 1905, she assumed heavier responsibilities caused by a sharp rise in sleeping sickness. In the course of time, a medical doctor arrived on the scene, and the other medical personnel were sent out to assist in the work. Relieved of the medical responsibilities, Miss Lily turned her full attention to the spiritual ministry among the national girls. Traveling by donkey, she became an itinerant specialist in training the girls and women of the Congo. She visited many mission stations and labored with the various missionaries. As time progressed, she became less and less mindful of her own health, and the Lord provided a young man, Petit, to assist her. He devoted himself to the care of his mama, as he called her, and assisted her in many travels. He insisted that she eat and rest, and doubtless her service was extended because of his care. Petit ultimately became the pastor of the National Church in Leopoldville, and he served there with honor. Lily had experienced severe headaches all of her life, but she did not allow that condition to deter her in serving. However, the headaches grew in both severity and frequency after she fell when her hammock plummeted to the ground. Miss Lily had served 40 years in the Congo, and she was already 6 years past the normal age of retiring. The Mission Society attempted to persuade her to retire. She adamantly resisted their efforts, but finally realized that she must yield to their entreaties. In 1930, upon her retirement, she was honored by the Belgian government with the distinction of Cavalier of the Order of Leopold II. Excuse me again. Soon after her retirement to Leicester, England, Miss Lily began to suffer from crippling arthritis, and ultimately she became a bedridden invalid. However, correspondence long continued with her African children, and from letters written to friends in England, it is evident that she had developed an extended ministry of prayer. She was 79 years of age when the Lord called her to himself on November 26, 1943. The Baptist Mission Society of Great Britain passed the following resolution in her memory. In part it read, and I quote, "She loved the African with a deep and passionate devotion, and she longed with her whole life that he might be brought to Christ. To that end she gave selfless service to her master, to the Africans, and to the mission." End of quote. To God be the glory.